Hello, namaste, namaskar, welcome, good afternoon, good morning, or maybe even good evening in whichever part of the world you are joining us from. My name is Deepak R. Khemani, and I am one of the co founders of Bloom. Along with our CEO and our founder, Payal Irani, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the 214th 214 episode of the Sunday Bloom Talk Show. For the past 214 weeks, non-stop, come rain or shine, be it online or offline, we have been here every Sunday speaking to people around the world on topics that matter. People who are mad, people who want to make a difference, people who are coaches, trainers, athletes, doctors, nurses, educators, healers, you name it, and they have graced our platform. By the way, every continent in the world, every continent in the world has been represented on the Sunday Bloom Talk Show. Be it the Americas, Africa, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and of course our very own Asia, and a person who has visited Antarctica thrice. So all continents have been covered. Let's take this opportunity to welcome our guest today. Today, we will be speaking about a topic which a lot of people either do not speak about or shy away from speaking. We have with us Niyati N. Shah. Niyati is an enthusiastic, passionate, and renowned sexuality educator. She's a counselor, author, and an intimacy coach. Wow, I never knew even this sort of a thing existed. An intimacy coach. You need to teach intimacy to people nowadays. She believes in educating children and adults on sex education so that they know and understand themselves. She's empowering them so they can take informed decisions and eradicating the hesitation and the taboo around sexuality. In fact, we used to have a section called Taboo Talk some time back, which used to focus only on such topics, but now that has been combined with the Sunday Bloom Talk Show, and we have Niyati with us. There is quite a lot to read about her, but that will take another few minutes. Instead of me reading about her, let me take this opportunity to first welcome her and ask Niyati to introduce herself. Niyati, tell us a little bit about what you are doing, why you are doing, how you started this, and what was the purpose.
Wow. So thank you so much to begin with, Payal, for reaching out to me and giving me this opportunity to be on this stage where passionate people like Payal and Deepak ji are here. And you need that passion to understand the other person's passion of what they're doing. So thank you so much for doing this for all of us and reaching out to the people who need this. So thank you once again for giving me this opportunity. So I started this Deepak ji, I almost 14 years back when my eldest son was about 6 years of age, and I was that parent, who wanted to be there for their child, like run, rain or sunshine, whatever you have, any questions, any problems. I wanted to be that mother where they can come and talk to me about. So even how we call the Garbh Sanskar, that is what I used to tell my child that I'm here for you anytime for anything. You can come to me. I'm an open parent. So that was the attitude I had when it came to parenting. So while I was reading all the books on parenting, attending courses on parenting, learning the modern ways of parenting, because it's a fact that we all parent the way we were parented by our parents, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to know what is happening in today's world, today's times. So I used to interact with a lot of teachers and new parents and books and courses, but never had I come across something called sex education or sexual abuse or keep your child safe. So one of the lectures in my son's school was on sex education, and Dr. Rajan Bhosle came and he gave a speech on how important it is to talk about this topic to your children, specifically to keep them safe. And it hit me so deep. I was like, I'm doing everything on this earth to be this mom to my child, but nowhere did I read about this or nowhere anybody's talking about this. And I too was touched inappropriately in my childhood. I was like, how can I not talk to my child about this. I know how it affected me. And I got to know how it's affected me only after I got married. So, how much it must have changed me the way I grew up, and it showed up when I had that relationship, and how difficult it was for me to understand it, unlearn, basically heal myself and be there as a new person in my relationship. And I was like, how come I did not understand this? And that's where I reached out and I said, I want to know about this. I want to be prepared. And I was already pregnant with my second kid. So for me, it was two children now. And I was like, I have to know this. And I started diving into it. And the first course that I did gave me a certificate. Like, okay, Niyati, you are a trained sex educator. You can go and talk about this to other people. And I was like, oh, so lovely. I came here for myself as a mom, for my children, but I have this opportunity now where I can reach out to many more. So while I'm a commerce student, I was like, okay. So, I made sure that everything is in place. The certificate allows me to go and spread awareness. And my sir was amazing and he helped me out. And I started talking to my friends and family. That's how the story began 14 years, 13 years back. And it continued in a way where I got opportunities, not only friends and family, their friends and family, then to schools, then to colleges, then to institute organizations. It opened doors for me to see whether I have the skills to write articles. I authored two books in the process. And, so many things opened up for me just because I said yes. And that's the journey that I have covered in the past 13 years. And only to be able to reach to that one more parent who can sex educate their child and give them the information and the sanskaras and the consequences that when you do this, this is what's going to happen. Are you ready for it? Because in today's times, when we tell children, don't do it, that's the first thing they want to pick up. So we have to understand how to parent your child and then take sex education to them in a way where they understand what is in our minds, in our hearts, our concern, our fears, our love for them, and then put it out there. So that's been my journey.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure this question must have been asked to you, umpteen number of times. One, when do we start? How do
Yeah.
we initiate the conversation? What's the right age?
So my answer has always been start as early as you can. So if your child is 13, talk today if you've not spoken. If your child is 9, talk today if you've not spoken. If your child is 3, talk today if you've not spoken. And if your child is just born, talk today if you've not spoken. And if you are conceived, you are pregnant, start speaking good affirmations. Good, no, all affirmations are good. Start saying those affirmations where the child becomes empowered, not for the sex or sexual relationship, but resilience, to be able to comprehend, to be able to listen. So those basic skills that we need to build up, you become a parent who is not thinking about, oh, I want a son, or oh, I want a daughter, or if I'm going to buy clothes of both genders. Irrespective, be this parent who speaks about, I have a healthy child, my child is listening to me, I'm playing good music for them, read good books to them. So, see, sex education is not only about the sexual act. There is hardly anything in that whole education. So, sex education is little about sex and more about the education of everything that is around them. So, when should you start speaking? Today. So before you start talking, there are certain things you will need to do. We'll talk about it when the question comes in, but when to talk today. And yes, whatever you read, whatever you talk has to be age appropriate. We are not saying start talking to a 3-year-old about sexual activities. No. What to talk to the younger children, what to talk to the children who are in puberty age, what to talk to children who are teenagers already, or even older, depends on what their challenges are, what their age is, what their curiosity is, and what do you want to tell them. So there are a lot of factors that affect your conversation that will decide what your conversation will be like. So start
So
today.
again, since you mentioned you start today, but then you decide what needs to be said, how
Yeah.
it needs to be said, whether what you're telling now is relevant or probably something needs to be said for later, does it make sense for every parent to start, or bring in a third party, a counselor, or the parent, needs to go and probably attend some sort of a class or some sort of a lecture or some sort of a meeting where you are taught like this is the way to speak, do not
Mhm.
start saying this or do not say this, or the parent starts with their own experience.
So, first, I would like to draw attention upon that we as humans don't learn when we listen. We learn when we observe. So it's a good idea to bring in an expert to begin this conversation with your child, where the parent already has read, understood a little bit, knows, and has clarity of what they want to talk about. Then take help of these experts like us and see how we communicate with the children. So observing us for like 2, 3 times will give you a lot of insights of the body language, of the tone, of the examples we give them, of how we are listening to them, affirming what they are saying, then bringing them to on our party to tell, while we are talking about this, you're right, you feel this way, and then how to navigate them. So it's a skill for sure. So if you have any kind of doubts, like I don't know how to talk, it's okay to bring in an expert to begin with, see how they talk, and see experts are available no matter how many times you want to go and meet them. But it's a good start to bring somebody in to observe and then start your conversations from there and see how it goes. Even if you don't want to bring your child to the expert after 2, 3 sessions, it's okay to come back with your challenges to the expert and say, okay, but these things are happening when I talk to my child, what should I do? So they will also guide you of how you should be taking and basically helping you with your challenges. So yes, it's a good idea.
So still continuing on that conversation, when we are talking about about this to children, invariably if the child is shy, that he or she may not confide in their parents, but would probably want to go to a doctor, say, a family doctor or somebody whom they can trust. So is it the duty of the doctor to tell them that please speak to your parents first, or does the doctor speak to the parent and tell them your child has come to me talking about this? How does this work?
So different settings will have different rules and regulations. So sometimes a space like a school counselor. So if the child is going to a school counselor, usually the school counselor does not go back to the parent. This counselor is there to first see and kind of like judge where is the child coming from, how bad is the situation, is this just curiosity? So it depends on where the child is coming. But if the child is coming, like a lot of children come to me through Instagram, through WhatsApp, because you've taken workshops before, like, I need to
Yeah,
talk to you. But
yeah,
an independent counselor like me will go back to the parent to say, I need your consent to talk to your child because this topic is like that.
yeah,
It's not something like, oh, you're feeling sad. It's all right. Do this, do this, do this. This is sexual talks that we might be having, like, guiding them about their private parts or their relationship or something, whatever they are going through. And it may not be a great idea to talk to a child without the consent of the parent. Now,
yes,
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 sometimes there may be a problem where the parent is like, why is my child coming to you and why can't they talk to me? So it's a call that, the counselor has to take. But to be safe, because children are minors, you must take the consent of the parent, help them understand it's okay, I will come back to you, tell you what needs to be done. If you trust me, let the child come. I will direct the child to you in no time. So we have to work as a team and not become this insecure parent like, why did my child come to me and why did my child come to you? It's not
yeah,
important. What's
yeah,
important is child is reaching out.
yeah,
Today, in today's times, reaching out is a taboo to begin with. Forget the topic. So
yeah.
if the child is reaching out, you have to be thankful to the universe, to your God, to whoever you believe in, that my child is looking for solution, because this attitude will continue when they are adults also. They will not fall into traps. They know I have to be informed and they will look for the right source to take that information. So yes, I think it has to be a teamwork.
So you spoke about counselors, and you said you get a chance to, speak to students in colleges,
Yeah.
universities, even in schools. Do you find that many schools have these counselors, and are these counselors really trained or effective or qualified to be doing this, or it is another box that needs to be ticked so the school says chalo ek घंटे का ये बात करते हैं और आगे बढ़ते हैं? How what is your experience?
So I see every school has a counselor, unless one counselor has left and there's been some time till the other one replaces. But most of the schools have their school counselor. In my observation, school counselors are not equipped to talk about sex and sexuality, because these counselors have reached out to take trainings to ask me, Niyati, this situation has come forward. What do I do about it? And then, we kind of like get into the whole situation and what it is, and then kind of like train the counselor to go back and talk to the child. Most of the counselors just take that case and pass it on. Like, why don't they tell the parents, like, why don't you talk to Niyati? She's more equipped with this. So it can work in so many different ways. But yes, most of the counselors, see, it's a school setup. School does not look into having outside resources for regular stuff. They expect regular counseling, like, okay, you're stressed with exams or somebody's bullying you. So they are equipped for that, and that's their focus. But if somebody's saying, I have a relationship, or somebody touched me inappropriately, every school has their own protocols of how they are going to address to this. But individually, counselors do come to me, but most of the counselors don't know how to reply. Usually, it is like, oh, you should not do that. There's more moral science class about what the society will think and what they will feel and how they will judge you, rather than understanding the child and what they are looking, what is their challenge and problem. So, a lot of children are having girlfriends and boyfriends by the age of sixth grade, seventh grade. There's dating happening. School finds out. There are corners where you'll find kids, hugging, holding hands, sometimes kissing and all that stuff. So it's more of a, oh, you can't do this on this premise. And the kids come to me and like, where will we go? We are not allowed to be and go out on dates otherwise. This is the time where we meet. So there is this gap which has not yet been bridged. But again, it's an institute's call because it's their premise, their space, their protocols. So some schools do reach out, some schools just will be like, not here. So it's everything in between that spectrum.
Another big problem is we get to hear about these things where you spoke about, sixth and seventh grade students having boyfriends and girlfriends and probably even indulging, and at some point something got found out. At what point does it become legal? At what point is it illegal? At what point does the school get involved? Do they bring in the parents? Does the law need to come in?
Yeah.
There are so many aspects to just
Yes.
a simple thing which the child probably doesn't even understand, but
Yeah.
could be blown up to 10x, 100x also.
Yeah. So while we started talking about safe and unsafe touch, good touch, bad touch to protect our children, we've also become very sensitive to that. So even if a child is curiously exploring with another child, there is this big shock some parents get, that how can your child touch my child inappropriately?
Yes, my
Which is,
daughter,
which
my
is
son. Yeah,
true, which
yeah.
is true. At no point am I saying that one child should touch the other child, but there is a lot of psychology and physiology involved, hormonal studies involved, which we don't bring to parents. So while
Yeah.
we say, see, we want to keep it black and white for children because that's all they can understand. They
Yes.
they their maturity is not to understand the whole 360 degrees of what we are talking.
Yeah.
So the small lesson goes like, nobody should touch you.
Yeah.
Parents have also seen videos and they are not trained for this. They only see
Yeah.
videos and social media and all these books where we can only write so much about it. No, the books are not completely looking into psychology and biology and all of it. We are just writing, this is what the child needs to know. So
Yeah.
when something like this happens, one, how the school understands this, of how much can they completely make the children understand that even though you did this, we cannot continue doing this. There can be an apology, there can be a small, not small, there can be an effective consequence to that, where the child is maybe given charge to make sure that nobody does this in the class. So something like that, or they can read a book on it to the class. So somewhere where you're empowering the child rather than punishing the child.
Yeah.
So it also depends on the age of the child. So much is involved. So it will be a school's call of what they do. Having said that, when these children are older, maybe the puberty age or the teenagers, which is 8, 9, and 10, it becomes a little more serious because now we know these children can be sexually active. Active
Yeah.
as in their sexual hormones have, they are active now, which
Yeah.
otherwise were not till then.
Yeah.
So there could be a sexual gratification, there could be sexual abusing, there could be a lot of things. So we have to hear both the sides, collect as much evidence we can from other students, from other teachers, know the students' performance till now, how the student has been. But that again does not define if the student has been good and performing. He cannot or she cannot do this. They
Yeah.
can,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
this personality is a different personality from a regular personality. After having said that, you see, corporates have a small group who looks into these harassments, which they call as
Yes.
ICC. Schools
Yeah.
don't have that,
Yes.
group of people who can look into the matter. So
Yeah.
one of the things I'm working towards is having these groups in the school who can figure out what has happened, look into the matter, then bring in the parents like, okay, this has
Yeah.
gone a little beyond our capacity, or it's becoming a different. One parent is putting a case or has complaints, so the other parent has to come in. So lot of permutation combinations that the school will have to keep in mind before they call the parents. Having said that, before 18 years of age, everything is illegal. To keep it short, before 18 years of age, everything is illegal. After 18 years of age, if your partner is lower than 18, it's illegal. But if both are 18, both are with consent, nobody is complaining, then it is legal, which is usually after 12th standard. So if we are talking legalities, both have to be 18, both have to consent, then it's legal. Otherwise, consider everything illegal.
Since you are in the field, you are, watching what's going on, you are speaking with people, schools, children directly, as you said, they are reaching out to you, and also parents. Does 18 need to become 16?
Does 18 need to?
Become 16?
No, no. So in fact, knowing that today's time puberty is coming earlier, like hormones are released earlier, they are feeling they are sexually active as younger children. But that is not the only thing you need to have a sexual relationship. You need to have the maturity. You need to be able to think logically, put reason into what am I doing, why am I doing, what will happen later. And that all happens here in the brain, which we call as the frontal cortex. So this develops the last. This develops post 21 years of age. So till then, so okay, very quick biology. Our brain, so first our body develops, the hormones are released and everything, the brain develops the last. All right. So while my reproductive organs are all active and ready to make me a mother and, oh, go have sex, it's like shouting in my brain. But having said that, my brain develops from the back to the front. That's how the sequence is. So my feelings are all here in the middle. My reasoning and logic is all here. So before I can think whether it's right, wrong, consequences, what, why, when, how, I've already felt it, and felt it how? Strongly. So my
Yeah.
sexual urges are stronger here, which makes me go and act on it. So by the time that thought reaches here, I've already acted on it.
Hmm.
So this is one of the reasons why we are screaming and shouting on the top of our lungs, teach your children to pause. If there is an urge, pause for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, let that thought come to here, and then give you that understanding whether what I am doing is something I should do. So, and trust me, at 16, 18, yes, there are children who are mature, there are children who've done this before, and they do take very informed choices. But at the same time, I will tell the children also, pause, go check with somebody. You don't have to kiss at that time. That opportunity will come again. Go speak to somebody, speak to an adult who you trust. Should I be doing this? Let that guy, let that person guide you, whether yes, no, maybe, wait, who is this person? Let me know more, and then take it forward from there. So no, 16 is not something that should happen.
So another question is, you and I are of a generation where we probably were, educated in convent school. Most of us were either in boys' school or girls' schools.
Yeah.
Nowadays, most schools are co-ed.
Yes.
In your opinion, does this help or does this complicate matters?
It helps big time. Because what happened with us, even I come from a convent school, so I remember all my friends going gaga just because they saw some boy of another school across the road, and we didn't have the opportunity to learn what they go through, what is a boy all about, how do they think, how do they speak, what is their mannerism, and we didn't get a chance to interact with the other sex, right? And that also had a lot of negative impacts when we grew older and we had relationships. Why do we need intimacy coaching? Is not because today's generation is like that, but because when we were young, we were not told how to get intimate. So that is why we need the coaching now today. Today's generation doesn't need that. The girls are very comfortable with the boys in the group. The boys know what girls are going through. My daughter has had incidences where she's been on the camps, she's got her periods, and the boys around her were there for her. One is getting a hot bag, one is getting the medicine, one is telling her, you sleep, take this blanket, one is getting junk food, but he's getting some food for her to eat. And the girls are like, do you have the pads? Are you okay? It was overwhelming for me as a parent to see how this group of girls and boys, irrespective of what their sex was, were there for my child when I was not. It helps. It helps.
So isn't intimacy a basic instinct? I mean, why do we need to be taught or coached about it?
No, intimacy is not a basic instinct. Sex is. So we have to understand the difference between the two. The sex also, sex is not intuitive for everybody. A lot of people have had sex very differently, which is not sex. Like, I mean, funny stories for another day, maybe, but they don't know what sex is, like intercourse is. I'm not talking of sex with outer course and all the other definitions. I'm particularly talking about intercourse. They don't know that the penis needs to penetrate into a vagina. So we have had those cases. Having said that, that's a small percentage. So sex is intuitive. Intimacy is how two people come close to one another emotionally, mentally, sexually. That is so so if it's me and my partner, this is a hypothetical situation. We both are very active sexually. We both have urges, but we don't want to come together because we have other differences. We have emotional baggages, we are upset with one another. I feel he's not taking care of me, he feels I'm not there for him. That does not allow us to come close as human beings. That is the intimacy I'm talking about. So while we both are sexually active, probably we'll both look for somebody outside because we are still hungry, but at the same time we don't have that closeness between us. So intimacy basically is to bring these two people close to one another, where sexually, emotionally, and mentally they are there for each other. So, yes, we need to teach how to come closer, how to let go, how to leave the past and redevelop the new future, how to unlearn certain conditions and patterns and, skills, probably what we heard when we were kids, which may not be true. How, see, for example, boys are never told of how to be confident and how to be, even if they are whistling or winking or giving bad words or speaking about sex in a very casual manner, nobody stops them. Oh, they are boys being boys. But if a girl talks about it even jokingly, oh, look at how she is, she talks like this. So we've grown up from that kind of patriarchy, conditioning. So yes, in today's times, we need to tell the men how to be with the women. We need to tell the women what are men all about, understand each other and come closer.
I just want to take you up on what you said just now. Boys are allowed to say things, do things, nobody questions them. But when a girl even slightly behaves a little outside their zone, which is considered normal,
Yes.
don't you think because of this repression that has happened, probably today these girls are actually taking it to the extreme level where they are trying to, show themselves, I am somebody who will rebel. I will not fall under your definition of normal. I will do things which are you think that I am not able to do. Does that actually take them really, really onto this side, onto that extreme, just to prove a few things, a point?
Um, while I want to agree with you, okay, yes, there is a need to be heard and seen and to be told that we are equal as human beings, irrespective of what our sex is. But I've also understood that if we just continue doing who we want to be, there is a bigger group of people who are telling us not to be like that. So the voices have to be raised so that these people who are not listening can hear some buzz that is happening. So I think the girls or the women are not doing this because they want to prove that we can also do all of this. I think what we are doing is we are trying to reach out with a louder voice so the ones who are not listening can hear something. I'm like, maybe our voices will be reached. And I think the more people talk about it, there are some shy people who will now find some peace, like, okay, what I am feeling and what I am thinking, there is somebody who's talking for me. So I don't think it is we are out there to prove anything. I think we are out there only to be heard.
Yeah. So, I mean, we are almost an hour into our discussion. I've been asking you question. I can ask you another 20,000 questions. But what we'll do is, let me bring in Payal.
Sure.
Payal, is there anything which you would like to speak to Niyati or ask her? One, either on what we've already spoken about, or something else that comes to your mind immediately. And then I've got a few more questions, and then we'll bring the audience in also.
Thank you, Deepak sir. Namaste, Niyati.
Namaste,
Uh,
Payal.
so my question to you is, are there any challenges while you coach and counsel the parents as well as the children? Any particular example or any challenges which you face as an intimacy coach and a counselor?
Yeah. So I won't call them. So I see this very differently, Payal, because I'm not sitting in a seat of a coach and I speak about it. I sit in the seat of a parent. So when I am listening to other parents' concerns or their, I'll give you examples of what I'm saying. So when I listen to other people's challenges or other parents' concern, Kiniyati, don't talk about this, don't speak about this, I understand where they're coming from. So it's not my challenge that I feel, I can see their challenge. So I am to somebody who can talk about anything, any which ways. I don't feel that this is something I should keep into my house only. If it is helping my child's friend or her friends, I am only creating that environment for my child. So I cannot sit with all that I understand at home and only empower my child. My child is going out in the world which is not ready any which ways. So my positioning is as a parent. So now I'll tell you what I hear from the other parents or schools also for that matter. So one will be, Niyati, this is puberty session. Don't talk about sex, okay? And I'm like, you know what? I will not talk about it actively, but I'm telling you this topic will come out. Because
Yeah.
when I'm talking about periods and I'm explaining uterus and the lining and the egg coming and planting itself, and when the egg is not fertilized, this lining is going to come out. The children are going to ask me what happens or how does this egg fertilizes. I will have to go into the semen will come, the sperms will enter the egg. So they will ask me, where does the sperm come from? So if I say it's in your dad's or it's in the man's body, they will ask me, how did it go inside? Because that is how a child's mind is. They're supposed to be curious to understand the working of the universe. So this question will ultimately come and I will answer. So only if you are agreeing to this, you consent to this, then only send your child. Because of one parent's discomfort, I cannot be unjust to all the other children who are sitting in that batch. So I'm very clear of what will be covered, what I will be talking about, but I'm also very clear that I want the parents' trust first, rather than saying, no, I am going to say, and this is how I do it. No, I understand the parent and I bring them into that trust zone that rest assured, if you feel like sit at the back of the session and see how it is done. If you still say no, it's okay to just take your child and leave the class. So I do everything in my capacity to ensure that everyone's comfortable of what's being said. So these are the kind of schools also tell me the same thing. Niyati, don't cover this, remove this slide, don't take this illustrations. And I'm like, no, then that's why I take meetings with the schools before the workshop. I show them the PPT, I tell them what's going to be spoken about. And if I can adjust, if I still feel the message is going to go, it's fine. But if you're going to tell me remove the illustration of the reproductive system, then I'm not the person who should be taking this workshop. Because without the illustration, children have their own imagination of where the uterus is and how things are happening. And I've had questions from children which make me burst into laughter. Where, okay, so just one funny incident. One child it was a puberty session, but there was a sexual intercourse which was going to be explained to them. And I'm explaining the sexual intercourse with two different diagrams, okay? The male reproductive system and the female reproductive system. And I'm like, okay, then everything was discussed, the erection, the ejaculation, the vagina, everything was discussed. And then I was like, okay, when the man inserts his penis into the vagina, this is happening. And this child is looking at me with these big, curious eyes. And I know something's happening in her mind. And after a while, she's like, and she has this painful look on her face. And I'm like, what's your question? I can see there's something going on in your mind. She's like, won't it hurt the man? I was like, no, it does not hurt when done right, but we will talk about it when you are in the next class. But no, it does not hurt. How can it not hurt? I was like, what do you think is happening here? So after all these sessions, we know, like, the child is on another platform altogether. She's like, okay, this is what I think. If the man is going to cut his penis and put it into the vagina, and I'm like, no, 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 no. Nobody's cutting any body
Oh my
parts
God.
here. So see, if we do not explicitly talk to them, we are leaving them to imagine. It's a fantasy world for them. They don't know what is going on. And as I said, we don't learn by listening. We learn by watching. So I'm not saying you should have humans doing it for you and showing it to you, but illustrations use karke, we can still explain. So then I had to explain to the child, two people come together, physically, their bodies are close, and how, like, if I am feeding you, my hands come to your mouth. That way, the penis comes closer to the vagina and then they insert. Oh, thank God. I thought, how will this man be and what will they feel? So these are the kind of challenges, and that's why certain things I will not allow if the parents or the school does not allow me to, present it to the kids or talk to them about it. Otherwise, I am leaving that child in a world of imagination and I'm not going to be able to sleep at night.
Payal, I'm cutting you off and coming in just for 1 second. Niyati, in fifth standard in the science subject when we were children, we were taught this that, when plants, happens and, this is the male and this is the female. Like, do you feel that given the choice of subjects, a lot of people, leave out biology, physics, chemistry, they don't understand it, they leave it. You will pursue either mathematics only or only one part. We went through the full course, up to 10th standard, we did physics, chemistry, biology. Just from what you are telling me, I thought that we were actually better prepared.
So in today's syllabus, Deepak ji, the reproductive chapter happens in the grade of 6 and 7. So even if they are choosing biology later, it's not something that you can't learn later in life. So you don't have, this is coming specifically from the career point of view because subject choice is from the career point of view. So nobody is stopping us to read the bio books that our friends are going through only to be prepared of what it is. So it's not only school's responsibility. School is preparing you for a career. And that's what, they are heading towards. But as responsible parents or responsible adults, I can tell my niece, I can tell my nephew, I can talk to my friends, like, even though they've not, but this chapter might be interesting, go read it. So that is how, if and at some juncture, even when Supposing we have some infection in our eyes, we will go on to Google and find out what's happening.
Yeah.
We don't remember what was taught to us in the
Yeah.
bio chapter.
Yeah.
So it's okay to be continuously educating ourselves with what our life kind of helps us to experience, or what experiences we are going through.
Yeah.
So career wise, I think it is what they're doing is what they're doing, but it should not stop us from being lifelong learners. That is what I believe in.
Yes. I take that point again. So at what point, again, you clearly mentioned that the age is 18, and then that is it's legal. How do parents, or how do counselors, I mean, at least counselors is a safe space, which means you're speaking to a counselor, it's not going to go outside. What if you've done something wrong, or you're not too sure about what you have done is right or wrong? You'd probably speak openly to a counselor rather than to a parent, being afraid that you'll probably be punished or something may happen. How does that get resolved? Again, it gets resolved at the school level, at the counselor level, because when we read reports like this, ultimately the blame falls on the principal of the school. The principal did not do enough, or the school did not have a counselor, or there wasn't enough guidance, or this wasn't taught. Just, have you come across this happening, and share a few experiences, something which happened in real life?
All the time, Deepakji, all the time. Because one thing, every school has had these kind of incidences, whether it is reported or not.
Yeah.
Because children are children, there is curiosity, there are experiments, there are things that they are experiencing, there are things they've learned from outsiders, and things are happening in schools.
Yeah.
So, irrespective of where the school is, in what part of the world, how modern you are, or how rural you are, this has happened somewhere or the other. All right. So, when it comes to the principal, I think it comes from the point of view of safety, because whatever we are educating on sex education is outside schools. Inside schools, after, I remember this happening 12 years back or something, there was a school in Mumbai where an incident happened, and it went on a very big level where, it became like a legal case and everything. Newspapers were printing about it. So parents became scared, and there was this big wave of safe and unsafe touch workshops happening. But having said that, after the workshop, what have you done? Do you think children just learned everything in that 15 minutes, 45 minutes that you taught them? Of course
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
How have you implemented it further on? How have you implemented with the new students who've come in?
Yeah.
Have you made sure that the students who've learned still retain that, still understand what their behavior should be like? Do they know? So we teach our children to sit quietly when the teacher is explaining. We teach our children to say good morning. But do we teach our children what are bad words, or what is your conduct of behavior when you are with your peers? Are you a encouraging peer, or are you a bully? So are we talking about these things? We don't. So while we are saying national anthem on a Monday morning, school anthem, and another song, are we giving affirmations out to our students? Are we speaking of? I remember, when there were some schools who the students come out with pride. They are like, we are auxilians, we are this. There was a sense of community in them. There was
Yeah.
a sense of pride of who we are, because they
Yeah.
were taught to be and behave in a certain manner.
Yeah.
We are, even army, they know how to stand, they know what their conduct of behavior is, because
Yeah.
it was drilled into them.
Yes.
Nowadays schools don't do that. So that is what is missing. So
Yeah.
schools need to take this further on to say it's not just the principal's job. It could be a teacher who can take this idea and bring it to the school's,
Yeah.
assembly. Like, okay, this is what we are going to do from here on. The trustees also should be a part of this decision making,
Yeah.
because not everything is in a principal's hand also. So
Yes.
trustees should come, because whatever happens at a leadership level trickles down to the students and the
Yeah.
non-teaching staff.
Yeah.
When the whole institute speaks a language, that's the language your child is going to speak. Because
Yeah.
if it takes a village to raise a child, it
Yes.
definitely takes the school environment for your child's confidence and
Yeah.
their behavior and the way they think and all that to develop.
Yeah.
One parent can't do anything.
one more question before I'll bring Dr. Alka into the discussion. She's put
Sure,
on her camera, so she clearly has something to say. I'll
sure.
bring you in, Dr. Alka, after this question, but I'll ask this to Niyati first. Every child of ours now has a mobile phone,
Yeah,
whether they are 7 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, or 15 years old.
yeah,
And we know what kind of good and bad things are available online. There are thousands of creeps on Insta, and people
yeah.
will accept requests from anybody who has either a girl's picture or a boy's picture, assuming that is the actual person on the other side, not knowing what's going on. How do we protect our children in such cases?
I'm going to give a very honest answer, Deepak ji. Okay. One, don't give mobile to your children to begin with. Because when 10 children get it, the other 10 are under pressure. If you are giving your mobile to your child because they're traveling alone or because they need it for some or the other reason, then give a phone which is not a smartphone. And if you have to give a smartphone because they are using the maps, you are tracking them, their location and everything, then make sure all the other parental controls are there on the phone. The apps that are unnecessary are not there.
Yeah,
In today's times, parents feel that our children should have privacy. I completely agree, but that privacy has a limit.
yeah,
It cannot be that, mom, you can't look into my Instagram and you can't look at my chats. I'm sorry, darling, I will.
yeah.
So I think today's parents need to be less friends and more parents, because they will have friends, but they only have you as parents who will guide them, who can
Yeah,
bring them back at a stern eye. I don't expect you to be a strict parent who is whacking their children, but eyes should be enough to say that's not happening. You don't have
yeah,
to yell, you don't have to do all that. All it takes is just this glare, and my child knows that, okay, this is not going to be okay.
yeah,
That assertiveness in us as parents. Don't get scared of your children, because I know parents, I know my friends who are scared of their children. Oh, I am going to be, my child is really going to whack me. My child, I'm going to have a hard time now. No, they're children. So upskill as a parent. So
yeah,
give your child the technology they need, they must use. I'm all about technology. Even I never sat down saying that, oh, I'm so and so age and now I can't do these things and today's technology. No, I am out there, I'm learning. I know how to do Zoom. I know how to put my courses on Teachables. I know how to do my payments. I know what I need to do.
yeah,
All right. And I know a little more because I want to get into my child's world so that
yeah.
I understand them better. So I
Yes.
do have a Snapchat on my phone, even though I don't put anything. Instagram I'm using as a coach, but I'm constantly on it only to be able to understand my children and then to guide them. Fine, if you have to have an Instagram, I'm just saying they don't need to have if they are of a certain age. Then it's going to be on my phone and you will get it only on a Monday evening. So there are ways and means to do that, but you have to be able to be that assertive parent. So mobile phones maybe now is, you have to give it to your child who's like 10, 12, 13. But I also know of those parents who've not given their children even at the age of 13. And hats
Yes.
off to them because they know what they're doing. Children are not complaining. They
Yeah.
simply say, yeah, I'm not going to get it till 16. They just know that fact.
Yeah.
So if they can do it, we can do it too.
Yeah. Be less of a friend and more of a parent. I mean, if there was one line takeaway from me for today's parents, it was
Absolutely.
what you said just now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let me bring in Dr. Alka Chadda. Dr. Alka Chadda, with her years of experience and wisdom, will share a few things on what she's just heard and add a little bit from her. Go ahead,
Absolutely.
Dr. Alka.
So actually, I run an endocrine center. So I am a practicing endocrinologist, I would say, because my husband is one. I want to say that I wrote a book about 2, 3 years back, and in that I've written a chapter that can a parent be the best friend of the child? And the answer to that is yes, because my parents, were my best friends. They disciplined me, they engineered me to my value systems, and the reason for that is that they were themselves practicing the value systems. It is about being a role model to your own child. अगर आप सारा टाइम टीवी पे हो या आप सारा टाइम अपने यूट्यूब पे हो या आप अपने फोन पे हो तो you can't tell that to your child कि आप मत करो. Recently, I
Absolutely.
had a very young girl, third standard to be precise, and the mother was a patient. She come for obesity, and she was an MBA, by the way, and she had come for obesity because she had put on a lot of weight because of lack of exercise, lack of discipline, or whatever. She was complaining to me that she said, "Doctor, please tell my daughter not to indulge on the phone all the time." And I said, as I was just looked at the girl, that third standard girl, she's looked at her mother and she said, "आप क्या करते हो सारा दिन?"
Yeah.
And that was a hit on the mother, slap on the mother. And I'm saying that if we cannot do it, we can't ask our children to do it. And
Absolutely.
as far as moral science is concerned, I was in school about 50, 60 years back, okay? And even at that time in my school, we had moral science class every once a week. And I went to meet my teacher recently, the one who was my class teacher. She used to take this moral science class. And we used to ask the questions in a chitti we used to write. It used to be put in a jar, and every one question was read out, and the answers were given. So today, I don't know the level of moral education, but the schools to where I go, I'm attached to about 6 to 7 schools here in New Bombay. They are having moral science classes and they are having sexual education, but I don't know the level of that.
Yeah.
I was invited for one talk for de-addiction of the phone, and there the principal told me that there was a case where the boy and the girl, they have the smartphones. Like you said, we have to be assertive. There's a balance, very fine balance between being assertive and being friendly. नहीं
Yes.
देना है तो नहीं देना है. The rule है तो rule है. Phone नहीं लेना है. खत्म बात. Scooter नहीं देना है. Like that. So in that, what happened was that in the night, the girl and the boy were friendly, and the boy told the girl that I want to see your face. Can you put your face on the screen? And she did that. After that, he sent to her that can you come on your neck? Can you show me your neck? So she said, yeah, but I'm very scared. So he said, no, but can you do it? Don't you love me? I mean, there's no question of love, but they've just met in school. And then he went down to opening her buttons. And as soon as she did that, the photos were sent virally everywhere. And her friend, she called back and she told her that, what are you doing? Are you mad? And she got it. She was going to jump off the building actually, but she had the presence of mind that her mother was close to her, and she went and started crying to her mother in the middle of the night at 12:31 in the night. And to tell you the truth, she had a brother who had started all of this. She had an elder brother, 2 years elder to her, who had started all of this. He also got the photograph of his own sister doing this. And then when she told the mother, and the brother did not know about it, brother was fast asleep or whatever he was, he did not know about it, that the sister had gone to the mother. But then when he's realized that this is something emergency and it may take a very violent phase, he came back to the mother and he was given a slap on his face, and then they stopped doing these activities. So the smartphone is definitely a great, great, great thing to be ignored, to be thrown away, but we can't throw it away. It's not so easy to throw it away, but we have to be assertive to our own children. So thank you, Niyati, for that message today. This is the cause of all damage today to our children. Very true, very truly
you
said.
know I mean, again, Dr. Alka Chadda explained that we used to have a moral science. I remember in our moral science in the 10th standard, in that book there was one chapter. So towards the end of 10th standard, somewhere close to just before the prelim exams, that was the chapter that was introduced to us in class, knowing next month exams hone wala hai, iske baad ye log chale jaane wale. From there to what we see in today's generation, the choices, the options, the counseling, the features, I mean, what not has changed in 40 years. I think we've turned out pretty well. I mean, we didn't have counselors, we didn't have coaches, we never even spoke to our parents regarding these issues. Everything just, happened. We all learned, we all evolved. And luckily, touch wood, I'm sure there must have been cases where bad things also have happened. But a lot of us turned out pretty well. I'm sure the most of us, all of us sitting in this room, the 9, 10 of us, we've all turned out pretty well given what we went through or what we studied. Coming back to Niyati again, was that good? Is today better? Or a hybrid, a little bit of that and a little bit of this, and support of your parents and teachers? That is what all matters.
I was hoping you'll put a question after you've shared this because I have a very interesting story here. we were a group of friends with our children sitting and discussing about genders and how different genders are coming in and it's so difficult, and so lot of discussion was happening. And but the common discussion that happened is, as usual, we adults usually say, "Hamare time mein aisa nahi tha, aapke time mein." So very beautifully, my son, who was 18 that time, he just said, "Mom, you have to understand. Every generation has their own problem, and every generation was fine. We will deal with ours because we are equipped to do that. You
Yeah.
feel that we will not be able to do it because you don't feel equipped. We are born with this environment. We learn this. We are raised in this. We have friends who talk this language. We are very accepting, much more than what you think, that we are. So as simple as whether girls and boys can be together, they're very comfortable with each other. But in our generation, we feel uncomfortable, right? So while we turned out okay, our parents were also worried कि इनका क्या होगा, and we are worried about our children, इनका क्या होगा, but they're going to be turn out fine.
Yeah.
There will be some who will have different challenges. So even in diseases, if you will see, some diseases were never there with our ancestors. It's come down from other, into another generation. They will have their own set of challenges. They will
Yes.
find out ways. There
Yeah.
might be one generation who's not able to figure out a disease, but they figure out technology. Then the other
Yeah.
generation will figure out the disease, but there will be another issue somewhere else. They are
Yeah.
going to have their share of challenges. We just have to make sure that our children are resilient, our children can get up, our children can say good morning in the morning and say, "Today I'm headed off and I'm going to have a great day."
Yeah. You know, Niyati, our grandparents had 7, 8, 10 children and they never really bothered इनका क्या होगा. Our parents had 2 or 3 and they never really bothered इनका क्या होगा. आज वालों के पास, बेचारों के पास एक ही है और पूरा दिन यही botheration है कि इसका क्या होगा.
So true. So true.
You
I
know, I
think
mean,
trust. I think
yeah,
we should trust ourselves. We should make
yes,
sure that our children are in good environment,
yeah,
because जो संगत है वही रंगत है. So
बिल्कुल,
your environment is going to define your child's future also. So
yeah,
be aware of these small things as parents.
yeah,
Very beautifully, Alka ji said that my parents were my best friends. I made that statement that be less of friends and be more of parents, because we are misunderstanding the definition of friendship.
yeah,
Friends are the ones who will listen to whatever we are saying, never tell us that we are wrong. In fact, they are going through the same things. They are also discussing. So that's what I meant to say. Don't talk about being friends and being at the same thing. Be a friendly parent. So
yeah,
make sure that you have friendly talks,
yeah,
laugh with them, play with them. They die to see you play. And in that environment, when you talk about these, intense topics, they are more open to receive it, not from somebody who's lecturing every day. So
yeah,
be a friendly parent. That's what the
yes,
whole thing was about. So trust yourself and trust your
yeah,
children.
yeah. You know, starting from a sex education class to a parenting course,
At the end of it.
we really traverse that 1 hour. Balram wants to say something. Go ahead, Balram. You've got 1 minute only.
Yeah. See, madam, it's a suggestion. See, children who are studying in the school, say 8th standard, 9th standard, they study all the 9 systems of anatomy 9 system, which includes the reproductive system also. So why can't they introduce sex education and pregnancy also? This is just a suggestion which can be put up to the higher forum, so that sex education plus pregnancy also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Point
think
taken.
all of us educators
What is
are
your
working
opinion on
towards
that? What is your opinion on that?
um, when the anatomy is taught, it is taught from the perspective of biology. Sex education is more about society and moral science. So when we are talking about anatomy, they've taught what they need to be told. They're told that you will get pregnant. A woman can get pregnant this way. But the questions of children are not about pregnancy and not about sperms and not about eggs. Their question is, can I have sex before 18? Can I
Yeah.
have sex before marriage?
Yeah.
What to do if my boyfriend asks for it and I don't want to
Yeah.
give? The
Yeah.
questions are not about anatomy. So the
Yeah.
bio teacher who's gone there to teach biology ends up talking about moral science,
Yeah.
where her values may be different than the values the child has at
Yes.
home.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of disparity over there where
Yeah.
value systems are different and
Yeah.
children are not talking about biology, they're talking about morals and they're talking about
Yeah.
how are you going to judge me if I do that?
Yes.
That is what is happening.
Yeah. Wonderful. Real wonderful answer. Payal, would you like to officially close?
Yes, definitely. Are we having any questions from our audiences?
Yeah, Payal, it's past 1:30. Let's
Yes. Thank you very much, Niyati, for gracing the Bloom platform. We look forward for yet another masterclass, maybe in future very soon. And thank you, Deepak sir, for a wonderful
Thank you.
hosting. Thank you,
Thanks.
audiences. Thank you, Balram
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. God
Thank
bless
you,
you
everyone.
all.
Bye. See you next Sunday on the 215th non-stop Sunday Bloom Talk.
Yeah, yeah.